Cliffhangers podcast. I am one of your hosts, Aftermath 1231, and with me as usual is Aries.
And I am not on cocaine right now.
And also, the very lovely man himself. Okay, come away.
Yeah, I'm not on cocaine, but I have been drinking some wine and having some cheese.
And our special guest this week is Katie.
Stop!
AKA
Hello.
on Twitter, and you're the Cliffhangers on Twitter and Reddit, and then you're CrossedEagle
on Twitch and the
forums?
Ubisoft forums and Uplay.
That's the one. We have a very interesting, potentially interesting lineup for the podcast this week. We're going to talk to Katie here. Then we're going to talk maybe about something that I want to talk about, maybe not. And then we're going to talk about some various Syndicate-related things. And then we're going to talk about the Wikidata discussion today. Then we're going to talk about then Lawson will jump in with the marathon, and I think that'll do us.
There will be subtitles, right?
Good luck, Google YouTube subtitle things.
Just for Aftermath.
Perhaps. Maybe I'll set those up. That would take a while, though. Now,
We're recording on Friday. We have time.
I don't have all day to fucking transcribe myself on
Whatever. This is your life.
That's a you problem, Aftermath.
Yeah, sure. And you not understanding me is a you problem as well.
It's also a you problem because if we can't understand you, the audience probably can't understand you, and that creates a problem.
At least 2% of the audience is in New Zealand, so I think that they...
This week's topics
2%.
are...
I just listed the topics, actually, Aries. Come on, keep up. A very special mention...
Kent, you're talking too fast.
A very special mention this week. What if Assassin's Creed 2 was really Italian 2 was released, and that just happened...
Bellissima. Fantastic.
It was amazing, and it just so happened to line up perfectly with Mr. Aries playing AC2. Aries, I know
In
you wanted
actually
to...
Italian. Yeah, that's good.
And, do you want to just talk about for maybe like a minute?
Yeah, so I've been playing AC2 in Italian, and at one point when I was talking to Darby McDevitt last week, he was saying, yeah, so the localization people were like, why is this so shit? And I was like, it's not that bad. And then I started playing it, and fun fact, some of the little flavor text things that are in Italian, in the Italian dub, are actually different from what English version says. So one part, when you go over to Bang Christina, and then her dad's like, voglio la sua testa, that means I want his head. But in the Italian version, he says, prendetemi la sua testa, which means bring me his head. So little things like that, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. But it makes no fucking sense why it happens. So it's interesting, but I realize there are a lot of different things and also some errors. So yes, Shadow Marcus, I finally understand what you mean when you said the Italian version was kind of crap.
Yes, of course. Very friendly, very actual Italian friend. And all of this just happens to coincide directly with the AC Marathon being on AC2 at the moment, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Unless you guys have something else to say, I think it might be
It's raining
time.
outside right now. That's neat.
It's been raining here all week,
here.
which is insane because, it's Arizona, so everyone's, like, freaking out and, like, driving all over the roads and crashing into things. I think it's time that we should get started! So Katie, the way we usually start these off is with our guests introducing themselves by telling us how they got into the Assassin's Creed series as a whole. So when did you first play the games?
Okay, so I was looking for some new games to play, and I heard Uncharted was good, and so I was watching the Uncharted 3 trailer on YouTube, and then Assassin's Creed Revelations, that trailer was suggested. So I watched it. I didn't really know much about Assassin's Creed then, but I kind of just saw guy in white hood kills people. Don't really know why, but then I saw the trailer and it got me hooked. So I just kind of read up on what happened and kind of followed up the release, got Revelations, and fun fact, I also am a big fan of Woodkid because of that trailer.
Woodkid, yes.
Yeah.
I think we all are.
Oh, God.
And then how I got big into the series is I was busy with school when AC3 came out, so I just borrowed it from a friend, and then I played through it. It was good. I got to the ending. I didn't really like it, so I kind of thought the series was over for a bit. But then, like, they're like, oh, AC4 is coming out, and it's going to be a pirate game. I'm like, I don't know if that sounds like quite AC, what it's about.
Yeah.
So I just decided I wasn't going to get AC4, but then I saw my cousin playing it one day, and I'm like, what? You can find treasure, you have a ship, and it's actually lots of fun. There's a huge map. So I ended up getting it and played through it, and I figured out Darby, who had written Revelations, wrote
Darby.
4. Praise Darby, I guess.
Praise him.
And then, so I played through 4, and I was like, wow, that was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So then I was thinking, like, where's the next AC game going to take place? And I'm like, it's going to take place in feudal Japan. But it obviously didn't. But it's kind of funny because I had just learned about the French Revolution in school. And I was like, wow, that's actually a really fascinating point of history. And I don't know, as an American, you just assume, like, oh, it's like Les Mis with guillotines. I don't know. Kind of like, but you actually learn, like, how big it was, and, like, kind of like lots of stuff happened. Like Robespierre, he was against the death penalty, and then he was responsible for so many people dying. And I'm just like, if an AC game took place during this, I'd want it to explore kind of like the polarity of, like, the assassins and Templars, and how, like, they can be so similar. And I wonder if, like, they would ever explore the concept of unity. I swear I'm not making this up. And I was like, and they'd probably, like, have a love story in this one, because they haven't really had a love story in one of the ACs. I'm like, it's France. It's like, I don't know. It's like their thing is love. So
Yeah.
And then it was revealed by Kotaku, I'm guessing, that it was going to be in the French Revolution. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to follow this up until release. And that's when I got big into the fandom.
So, where in the online community did you start out first? Like, because I know that I first met you on the AC live streams. I think actually Joker's ones was when I first started talking to you. But you're very big on Twitter and Reddit, and now getting bigger into the Ubisoft forums. Where did you start?
I think it was mostly just me, like, talking to myself on Twitter. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, there's a hashtag for AC Unity. Let me, like, just say all my thoughts that will, like, be read by no one, and just put them on Twitter. But eventually people did see some of them, I guess. And I guess I was just on Twitter once, and I saw that they're having a live stream, and I'm like, what's Twitch? So I just set up a profile and started just, they're like, hey, if you put in questions, sometimes we'll answer them. So I'm like, wait, cool. So I just would type all these questions, and I'm like, they will never see them, but they actually read some of them. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. I never would have expected that. And the first time I ever entered a raffle was my first Twitch stream ever. I ended up winning a Phantom Blade replica. So it's kind of like it was engineered for me to become a fan, I guess.
Okay, now we have a new question. Thanks to Aries and inspired by that one post on the AC subreddit this week, which I can't remember who posted it, but we will find that out eventually. And so we would like to know, what has AC done for you, like, as a series?
I think it's really, I've really learned a lot more about history, and, like, how people decide upon what's history and what's not history.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just increased my love for like other places and peoples, and it's made me appreciate like characters and stories and lore in games more than I ever had in any other games, because I assumed like games are just like, oh, just shoot people and that's all you do. But I've just learned to appreciate stories and how stories interact with the gameplay to create an interactive narrative. And I just will sound like a nerd, but I love learning about history in other places too.
Oh yeah.
And if I may interject real quickly, it was Nova1987 who posted the Assassin's Creed Save My Life post. So
Thanks to
that is him.
Nice work.
If you're listening, you're pretty cool.
I doubt he's listening. Now, if you follow Katie on Twitter, twitter.com/TheCliffhangers, by the way, you totally should. You would know that Katie here is very, very into history and writing. So, Katie, how did you get into, like, you're very big into writing. You're usually tweeting about that or movies or history in some way. So how did you get into, like, the deeper parts of studying history and writing? And how was that affected your perception of the AC games or something?
I think it's because I've always been a big reader, so, and what I found interesting to read about was history and mythology, ancient Greece and Rome. So I guess like learning about that really helped me in school, and then when you learn about some things, you try to learn about more things.
Yeah.
And so I would just, if I didn't know about it, I would just try to learn about it. And one of my clusters in school was European studies, so it was history. So I ended up learning a lot about world civilization and Western civilization especially. And I don't know, I just find history interesting, and I think if I'm going to be on Twitter, I might as well try to follow like history accounts, just try to learn a bit more.
I've actually started following some of those history accounts that you often retweet because of you. Like, there's that one that's footnoting history. I actually started following them recently because I saw that some of your retweets.
Yeah, fun fact: August 15th is Napoleon's birthday. So.
Oh, baby!
Ooh.
Too bad I'm going to be at a wedding. I'll just pretend we're celebrating his birthday, but yeah. Anyways, and fun fact: the Cliffhangers used to be my writing group. It used to be a writing Twitter account for my group, but it kind of fell apart, and then it became just my personal account. But I'm still way into writing. I write crappy poems on the side. I just enjoy writing. Nothing really publishable right now, but I just always do it, and I'm still part of other writing groups, and sometimes I'm like, I wonder if I could write video games, but we'll see if that ever happens.
Now, one thing that we sometimes not usually ask every one of our guests is, what is your favorite AC game?
Right now I would say AC4. It just has a really big map, and I love big maps because then I can collect all the treasure chests, all the collectibles, and
Darby
be a pirate.
And Darby is the best thing that happened to humanity.
Let's bring that.
These are just simple facts.
It came up organically, so it's okay. And then I'd probably say Unity, for as much as sometimes I'll criticize it, I'll spend as much time playing it. And then Revelations, because that was my first game.
So Assassin's Creed Council is a week old now, over that now, at the time of recording, and it's been a very interesting time for all of us. I feel like we've kind of like grown and like discovered our bodies, you know?
I got some points that were not the default points.
I'm at like 460 points, I think.
And I haven't been back once.
I'm a bit at odds with AC Council because everyone wants me to talk shit about it, but I don't want to talk shit about it because I know they're working on it, but the site sucks. But
It'll be gone in a year, though, right?
I think 6 months
They made
was
it
what we
seem
said.
like they want it to be a thing that continues.
I'm basically going to sound like a broken record from last week, but I had a discussion with Lord Gabe through email.
Praise be unto him.
Praise be unto him. And,
But more to Darby.
And he...
No, Gabe. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that.
But he explained the reasoning behind why other sites have failed. Other Ubisoft sites have failed. And people are still holding resentment of that. And he explained that he felt, at this current point in time, that AC Council was going to be different. And I think it's at least 6 months. I can guarantee it's going to be around for 6 months. Any longer than that, I cannot guarantee. And it does say, like, each year they're going to send someone to Montreal. And, like, yeah. And that reminds me of... See, last week I had a lot of bad things to say about it, basically listing them off. But I also had a lot of good things to say because I could see the potential in the site.
Not that you said them.
Not that I said them,
you
but
meant to.
If you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I meant them. And then the spammer came back, and we got a new spammer after the old spammer left. And now the spammer is harassing me on Twitter in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, honey. You know, okay, now this is actually something I've been going back and forth on. I want to know what your guys' thoughts on this are. If you're going to... No, Connor, I haven't expressed my thoughts.
Yeah, okay.
He read your mind.
If you're coming on to a forum that's in one language, I think that you should have to speak that language. What do you guys think? Like, she...
Ma perché? Penso che non è un problema. Sorry.
Oh, gato es amarillo.
She's like... Because this woman is Spanish, okay? She only speaks Spanish. She doesn't speak English. And yet she's posting on, like, I think every language version AC Council has. So she's not only posting on the Spanish version, but she's also posting on the English version. She's not taking feedback. She's, like, even, like, you can tell she's, like, Google translating the titles for the things. Because they have, like, the upside down question mark as well as the...
Oh, yeah.
As the one that's unique to
Is this
Spanish.
the old hacker
This is
the new hacker?
Spammer. This is
Spammer, sorry.
What if it's Aiden Pierce?
That would
They're
be
in the
good.
same universe, guys!
He doesn't speak Spanish, Aries. Come on now.
How do you know? Does he ever say he can?
No.
Actually, wouldn't know. I
Sì,
haven't
lo
played
sai.
the game.
Questo è una cosa molto interessante.
Jesus Christ. And so
Man,
this person,
you could do a good Ezio Auditorio there.
this person
Yeah, I
is now talking to me on Twitter in Spanish, and I'm not responding.
Because you couldn't...
Well, Twitter auto
well,
translates through Bing,
Oh.
so I know what
Oh,
she's
really?
saying, and if I talk, she'd probably know what I'm saying. I just don't have an interest in talking to this person.
Fair enough.
And because she was like explaining, she has like some of the most points on the council side at the moment.
So she's
And
going to Canada!
Exactly. Yes, like everyone knows, everyone that looks at the site, because you know, I'm gonna sound like I'm shit talking Ubisoft now, but I promise I'm trying not to. But like, I don't think they're moderating the site, or at least weren't for the first week, because I got the badge that said like, your post you reported has been removed. And I hadn't reported any posts in 5 days. So I think they may have been a little behind.
Yeah. I think part of it might also have been like I reported one or two of the posts that you reported as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh god, yeah. And so I think they finally told the spammer to cease and desist, and then we got a new spammer.
Mm-hmm.
And like, probably above all of the technical issues and all of that, definitely my largest problem with the site, and I'll say it like right off. And the one thing that I don't think is going to be the one thing that isn't redeemable, I think, is the fact that the same content has been at the top of the site the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Reddit, you come on the AC subreddit. I exclusively use the new page, but if you come onto the hot page once a day, you will see completely new posts. Maybe one or two that were on there yesterday, but vast majority...
More if it's a slow day, but...
Exactly, it's different amounts per day, but...
Yeah,
for the AC
because
Council,
because with Reddit, it depends on, how many people decide to post that day, and that can vary.
Yeah, it's... But
yeah.
I can guarantee right now that unless it's stickied, you won't see the same post at the top one day after the other. And I think we have now the same 6 posts, something like that. Like
Meet the developers, Mark Alexi Cote.
exactly, that have been
By
Get the apple
developers.
that have been on there for the entire week. Like from the first day, like most of them were posted on the first day, and some of them actually before that. Like all of the meet the developers, like the news from the studio ones, because that's one of the perks with AC Council is that they actually post things from Ubisoft on there as well. They're like exclusive, and those have stayed at the top. So all of the content, because this is supposed to be content creation focused, hasn't been seen by anyone that's not on the latest page. Like I have been going on there and like I've posted my stuff, as I said, and while I don't expect to get any votes, or I don't expect to be voted out just because, people know me, I do expect my stuff to be seen by someone. Like, I don't care, like, I mentioned I didn't get any votes, I didn't get any comments. When I posted last week's podcast on there, it was upvoted pretty far, actually. It was upvoted halfway up the hot page, but anyone logging onto the site doesn't see that. Straight away, at least, unless you're going to scroll down, and no one scrolls down. Because all of this crap that's been there for the entire week is still clogging up the top, and it's like, when you get those, like, shitty plastic, like, toys, and then you, like, throw them on the roof and they get stuck there? And, like, your mother then, like, screams at you because there's all this crappy shit on the roof.
Are you the mother?
No, in this case,
Are you the toys?
Yeah. In this case, I was the child
roof.
throwing some kind of random shit on the fucking roof when I was like.
But
9.
yours isn't getting stuck there.
In this case, I'm the one who's trying to throw stuff on the roof, but it's not sticking because there's a fucking thin layer of shit.
You're the little
on
brother
roof.
with the weaker arm.
Yes, let's go with
You're
that.
the Luigi of this scenario.
And it's just, see, no one's that. As I said, that's the biggest issue with it, is that no one's content is being seen by the majority of people, because there's all the top posts have like 300 upvotes, and then if you scroll down 6, you've got people that have like 20 upvotes, and that was like the max the podcast got, and it was halfway up, because the other stuff isn't moving anywhere.
That is definitely a problem of the way the site itself is set up, because since we last checked in, a week ago, the population of the site has probably increased to 10 times what it was. So it's not that there aren't people on the site anymore. It's just that the way the website is set up is designed. It just deters you from, it doesn't give you the opportunity to look down the list.
I'm actually seeing less people on the site.
Really?
Katie, have you ever gone to the site?
When I was on it last week, it was like 1,300 people. And then when I was on it a couple of days ago, it was like 8,000.
I think that was probably more like to do with what time you were going on. Because I saw like 20,000 when I first went on one day.
Okay.
Because I think the way I'm figuring this out is because the news from the studio posts aren't being upvoted as much as they were the first day. Like, one of them has like 300 upvotes, and the latest one from Gabe has, like 40 max? And usually everyone like upvotes those because they're at the top, and so therefore they need to be upvoted for some reason. And that's the main reason that I'm disliking the site. And Katie, we'll hog in the conversation. I'll get to you in a little second, but like I'm a bit at odds with the site itself because I don't want to shit talk it for no reason because I've given all my constructive feedback to Gabe. Everyone wants me to shit talk it for no reason.
You have reasons, though.
I no longer really have any good things to say about it since last week, since it's kind of degraded in my eyes. Even if they have fixed the spammer issue, because now she's just posting crappy content instead of other people's content, which is better, because that can be fixed with downvotes. Yeah,
I guess
it's all a little complicated. Katie, can you fix it for us? Can you fix it, Katie?
Yes, I can with my crappy poetry. So, I would say that at least they're trying. They said they're trying to do things to fix the situation. We'll see what happens.
Now, see,
it might be
they're telling us they're trying, but I know that because I've been talking to Gabe and I've been talking to Esco and I talked to Joker a little itty bit. But I know they're trying and I know they're taking feedback and I know they're fielding feedback and they're responding to concerns. But, the community managers aren't the ones making the site. They're passing everything on to Ubisoft Paris. And I think the last thing that Ubisoft Paris did was make AC Pirates.
Which was pretty good by most accounts.
Yeah, but I don't know if the same... That probably, actually, my claim just has nothing to do with anything because it's probably not the same team making that game that's making...
And also, it's a game, not a website, so entirely different. You're right.
Yeah.
So just ignore that last part.
If it is the same team, that's a reason to be worried, because then it'll be like the thing I talked about last week, where it's like, 1 or 2 patches, it's fine. See you later.
Yeah, it's... Well, actually, IC Pirates has been really great with updates. It's been continuously updated over the last 2 years. Actually,
that is a point. Mobile games are set up like that.
With patches, though, when you launch a website like this, a lot of times, even though Ubisoft isn't a startup, you have the premise of a minimum viable product, which is you have a website that is a bare skeleton, bare bones, and it works well enough to exist, and you put it out there, and then you get all the feedback, and then you build on it, and then in a month or 2 months or however long it is, you have a product that actually works, and you would call finished. That's something for web design in the realm of startups, and I guess, it is different since Ubisoft is a big company. But I think that's the approach they're going for, and it's not a good approach to have when you already have a massive community around. But I think it makes sense when you view it in that context.
I also have a question there, which is like, how long has that idea for web design been around?
20 years, maybe 30?
20 years?
I have no idea.
I think by this point, a lot more people are using the internet and know what a decent website is. And I think that to be competitive, you have to be you have to have a much more impressive product than you used to.
And most importantly, it needs to be a more impressive product than your competitors. And we mentioned it last week, and this isn't.
No.
Now, see...
Because their competitors are us.
Yeah, their competitors are us.
Turf
exactly.
war.
There's you have 2 alternatives to this for the most part, and currently, either of those 2, your content will be seen by more people.
Yeah,
and
you even have more, because there's Reddit, there's the forums. I mean, we don't interact with Tumblr much, but there's a pretty strong community there. It's different, but it's still a strong community.
Yeah, there's 2 places for discussion, and even more places if you just want to show off your content. And see, Aries, to your point about how they're deciding the web design, see, I think that a lot of people would appreciate it more if they went to the Initiates route, where it was this
closed
long,
alpha,
drawn out.
That would have been much better. Yep, much better.
And everyone who got into it felt they were like some exclusive club, I remember when I got my email.
I felt so cool.
Yeah, I remember when I got my email about being invited to the closed alpha, and that was months after I requested it. And I was like, oh my god, I have to sign an NDA. Holy shit, this is so cool. And I think, and that just kind of, you hear rumors, you hear murmurs about what's going on inside. I think that was just in a way, the closed alpha stage and then eventually the open alpha stage actually added to the mystery and the fun of Initiates in a way. And I think that they really could have done something like that with here, and they could have added to the mystery and the fun and the content sharing. There could have been like some little exclusive closed alpha content that people are sharing around, and then you post it again when it's an open alpha or in full release. And yet, instead of that, we got a buggy website that basically doesn't do its key job, and its key job being to show others your content and get your content seen.
And remember, the Initiates was it worked pretty well and was at its best as far as content goes in its alpha stage.
Yeah, a lot of people would say that. It was, so I'm, like, I think we should probably wrap this up now, because I don't think we have much new stuff to say.
I think we've covered most of it.
But,
we've done our, we wanted to like you.
We did it, Reddit.
Yeah. It's not us, it's really you.
Like, I've wanted to like the site so much, and I've been using it for the last week and more, even though I had so many issues with it, because I knew that it could be something great. Yet, I expected it to be fixed within days, not weeks. And I can't last that long with this shit. I am sorry. I don't think I'll be using it anymore. Maybe I'll come back in a while once the updates have been rolled out, and I can see how it's improved and how it's changed. But until that point, I think I'm done earning points on AC Council, since I'm really not earning points. And if you post, I feel like posting other people's content feels scummy to me, and posting in the other language versions of the site feels scummy to me.
Yeah.
And yet, it seems that those are the only way to make it points. And yet, I feel that, like, a big part of KC Council is, like, because of the way the votes work and things like that, like, the people with the most points are clearly the best content creators, and so clearly get to go to Ubisoft Montreal. And yet, I feel that, like, 30 scummy fuckfaces are going to get to go to Montreal, and I'm going to be the 31st guy who actually posts his own stuff. I don't feel like I have a chance to win, because...
È una tragedia.
Because...
Veramente.
You know, not to sound, like, self-important, but, yeah, I mean...
Katie, have you once or ever will again use the AC Council site? Katie?
Okay, she's dead.
Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry. I posted on it once my photos of what I won from the...
I saw that. Yeah.
Spin to win. It didn't show up, and then I was like, oh, I'll just edit it so I can have the photos show up. You can't edit them.
Oh yeah, you won the Elise bobblehead thing, right?
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was really neat.
Yeah, and so then you posted it and the photos didn't show up, and then you tried to edit it, and you can't edit it, and then you tried to delete it, and you can't delete it.
No.
This seems like, and so then you're just little, pretty blank. This happens with a lot of people from what I've seen, actually, like, you're just
Some
like...
moron upvoted it, so... Yeah.
I did! Actually, I think that was me.
I'm the moron!
Exactly. Like, you're just tiny, shitty post that doesn't actually have any content. Like, to someone who doesn't know you or doesn't follow you on Twitter, that looks like you're just, like, saying, I want a thing. And then in the text, you say...
I want a thing.
And then you say, like, Elise
pictures.
bobbleheads, and you don't, like, include the photos or anything. And then, like... And it just sits there forever, because it's never getting removed, even though it doesn't really fit the site at all, because it's not content you've created, it's just a little sentence you wrote. Oh, yeah. Lordy. Oh, Lordy.
It's really avant-garde poetry is what it is.
Yeah. It's art. You can't comprehend it, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Scholars in hundreds of years will be able to understand, but until then, just don't even try.
Yeah.
È impossibile.
Yeah. For the time being, I don't think I'll be going on AC Council. At least they can either... I don't know. Let's talk about, before we wrap up, because I'm getting tired talking about this now. Let's flip this around. Last week we only talked about how shitty it was. How do you guys think they could fix the site? I think that what they need is strong moderation. That's very important. Keep the content good, keep it on topic, keep it like content you've created.
I know a good moderator. It's Freddie.
Oh, fuck. Like, I actually suggested that when I said, like, you know, the community managers, don't they do, like, more important stuff than just make sure that people aren't being assholes on this one site? Like, don't they have, like, actual jobs to do other than this? Like, well, I've talked to Joker for a bit, and they kind of do.
They just say that.
Yeah, I'm sure. They just sit around, like, reading the forums all day. And, like, so maybe they should bring on community managers, would it be to, like, so basically, not community managers, like, community moderators, that'd be it. With, like, limited access, but maybe they could flag a post to then be checked out by a community manager and, like, an actual moderator, instead of, like, because apparently, like, for the most part, they're ignoring reports, from what I can tell. And I think that would be, community moderators would be a good way to fix the moderation on the site.
Definitely.
Another thing they
I'd like more variety.
Yeah. There's, like, that would help with people staying on topic and keeping to the rules, but we also need to, like, kind of, like, support and, I don't know what fucking word I'm looking for here, but make it so that people want to post the good quality content, not the shitty little content. I think the only way that you could do that would be what Reddit did, which is like, the points don't matter. Insert whose line is it anyway intro right now. But that goes against the direct basis of the AC Council's sites, you know, as a whole. And so I don't think
points are made to matter.
Yeah, you can't fix that part of it. And so people are always going to make shitty fucking posts that take 5 minutes to draw up. And meanwhile, people are going to have people like me, people like you guys, people we find on the subreddit who are going to put hours and hours and hours into a project and not be seen because the voting algorithm and how posts are sorted doesn't work, so it's not worth it to post it there. I got 10 times as many responses on Reddit and Twitter than I did on the AC Council on my AC1 review. No one saw it. And everyone... Oh, God. And the same thing happened with the Animus podcast that I posted, and, like, more people saw it, and I'm going to stop talking now. You guys, how do you think you could fix it?
I think one thing to do is kind of retcon its foray so far into an alpha. Say, this was an alpha. We're going to go away from for a little while and work on the, like the back end, the technical stuff on the site.
I agree.
In response to feedback. Then maybe have a closed beta, you know?
Yeah, that would definitely be a good way to
that.
go. Just, say we fucked up by not fixing all these technical issues before the official release of the site. But we'll be back in 5 minutes.
I guess it's better it's crappy now than maybe it's a companion website for Syndicate. I guess it's better to have a crappy version in August rather than October. Hopefully it's better by then.
I
but
hope it's
who
not going to be a
knows?
companion site. I'm sick and tired of companion sites and how they treat
Imagine having to have those points for
oh god.
That's how you unlock Edward's outfit or whatever.
Wow, let's not give bad ideas to people. So yeah.
I'm sure it's already crossed their mind.
They don't listen to this anyway.
They already kind of did that with the Welcome to the Family thing. Like I'm because Edward's outfit is available with points there, I'm kind of worried about what's going to happen to the legacy outfits in Syndicate.
I hope you don't have to buy them or they're not offered.
Yeah.
And I hope that I didn't actually just use points to buy that when I could have gotten a t-shirt. But and then they're like, okay, it's free for everyone.
Yeah, I think it might come in, DLC down the road. That's
it's like
generally what they do.
February DLC is usually all the skins and whatnot.
Yeah.
So overall, to wrap up this current section, we believe that the AC Council has a lot of issues. I am less confident for it than I was. And I think that the best way to fix all of these many little issues that combine to make a very crappy whole would be just to start over, or just to roll back and not be public anymore, because they're just going to slowly trickle out these fixes and things like that, and eventually maybe it'll be a good site, but they haven't promised us like reworked algorithms for sorting yet.
So, last week was Gamescom. We talked about that a bunch at the time. But since then, so we had an EV demo. We've had a bunch of alternate playthroughs of that same EV demo, which kind of show off the black box capabilities. The one that I can remember right off the top of my head is one where the guy tried to go in real stealthy, totally screwed it up, ended up fighting every single guard and fighting Lucy Thorne on the roof. Showed off a bit of combat, showed off a bit of the sneaky stabby, and I think it also showed off that you could do it without really... I mean, I didn't see a ton of the use of the chameleon skill, but I think that was just because he was running at people and trying to stab them in their faces when they could see him with their faces.
This reminded me of something, and apparently a lot of people are mixing up her name, and a lot of people are thinking it's Lucy Throne, and like, isn't it like Lucy Thorne?
Yeah, it's Lucy Thorne.
Yep, Thorne.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people in like demos narrating it, and they're like Lucy Throne, and it's like that's not
it's
what
just
I read.
really hard to read. Or something.
Since it's a named character, it's probably someone real.
I could do. I'll check that right now.
It's I mean, that was how the trend used to be, but I could also be totally wrong. It might also be, I don't know. I mean, last year's Gamescom gave us an actual mission that was in the game. But they could do the same thing with
Sequence 3, right?
Yeah. They could do the same thing, though, that they did with E3 stuff, where it's like, this is stuff that's not actually in the game, but whatever.
It appears that, as far as I can tell, she was not a real person, and Lucy Thorne is actually an artist, and you should totally go check out her work, because it's great. I assume. So we saw several different different takes at the same demo, and it really, as you said, showcased off the black box capabilities, because we had, like, in the Unity's big black box missions, we had, like, one or two. We had, like, a distraction opportunity and an infiltration opportunity.
Yeah,
and there was one of each.
Yeah. I think there was one where it may have got up to, I want to say there was one that it got up to 3 things, but I don't remember what it was. Yeah, not many.
But now we have, hopefully we'll see some more variety than just this, but in the EV demo alone, we saw 3 different kind of approaches to it, which kind of, instead of being separated into infiltration and distraction, they were kind of like, depending on which one you chose, it was one or the other.
They were all sort of an infiltration kind of thing.
Yeah.
What I think was interesting is that, whereas like Unity's distraction and infiltration opportunities kind of worked in such a way that you could be like, okay, really Arno did both of these things, and that's how he got in. I mean, there was one mission like where you assassinate Le Pelletier. It doesn't quite make sense for both things to be true. I mean, you can do it, but it's just difficult and weird. Because it's like, spoilers, just, you can grab some poison wine.
That was
you can swap out the poison wine, but the infiltration opportunity is like opens a window on the other side of the thing from the poison wine. So like, if you're going to do both, you'd have to get the poison wine, you have to go in through the window, you'd have to sneak around him and the guards. It's like you could have stabbed him already. Put the wine on the plate, then wait for him to walk out, and it would just it doesn't make sense in that order.
I think I did that, and it was bad. It wasn't fun.
Yeah, I tried that my first time. It didn't work out. I just poison him now. It's way easier.
Yeah.
Or just shoot him. That also works.
Nah, I like the poisoning. It's fun. Also, you actually have to stab him because you have to assassinate with Hidden Blade. But my point that I was trying to get to way back when was that this black box demo, it very much seems set up like each of these three options is distinct. Like, you do one and you don't do the others, or maybe you can forge your own way in. But these are like three different things. Like, if you're going to do the, the thing we keep seeing where you get escorted as a fake prisoner, then you're probably not also stealing the keys and sneaking in above her.
Yeah. It's, overall, I think Syndicate's going much less focused on the whole Animus and, like, making sure that everything makes sense in universe, which AC was known for back in the day. They went out of their way to make the Animus the excuse, and things like that. And now they're just going, oh, it doesn't matter.
I actually had Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay, I actually had a question about the black box missions. Do you think they'll show, like, for black box missions, that's like, these are your three options, but say, like, this one's the canon one, these are two other things they thought about doing, they didn't do, and the one with the cutscene is canon?
Probably the one with the cutscene is canon, though I don't think they're going to go to the trouble of explaining the whole thing at all. They're just going to be like, that's just going to be like a way you can think about it.
Yeah, I think that it's just going to be naturally Evie's most stealthy infiltration will be canon, and Jacob's most brawler infiltration will be canon. I
mean, it's a bit weird either way, just because, the same thing again with, like, Lucy Thorne, where they used to, be very much like, all the named characters are real people. That one might be like, not a ton of influential people die at this period in, like, violent circumstances. So that's a bit... It might make sense to make up people just to work around that. But it always makes more sense, like, it would be hard for, an assassin to play out a scenario in their head and then imagine, like, for instance, if, like, the assassination target has lines, for whatever scenario, it's like, well, the one with the lines is probably the right scenario because they said X number of things. Although that is kind of inconsistent because I think, like, if you went by that logic, then all of the... having just played through AC1 for the marathon, all the Templars and that, technically Altair totally failed to kill sneakily because they all have long extended taunts if you get into fights with them. So, yeah, I definitely I'm still kind of the mind that the cutscene is probably the canon.
Yeah, I guess. I don't think it matters much, though.
Yeah,
on the whole.
Well, it'll matter for loads of people, but...
Perhaps it should matter more to the developers.
I think it's a double-edged sword because it's like, how much do you want? I'm also very much like especially where this is a series that's very much going off of real history. No, it's not. It's alternate history, but it's alternate history in a way that could fit into our reality.
Until 2012.
Yeah. But then, so I would like them to be accurate, but at the same time, I'm also thinking, like, it's like things with the, like the rope launcher. It's like, I don't know per se because I haven't played with it, but it's like, at what point does gameplay have to outweigh, realism? Because I will say they're probably
to quote
right
Loomer,
about
the rope goes in front of you and the other side goes, don't think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like, exactly.
Okay, this is my thoughts on it. Now, we know that Syndicate's kind of deviating from that. We know that Assassin's Creed, like, for a long time was well known for making things work and explaining basically everything. And while most were explained by the Animus, and that always elicited
Yeah.
a groan and a roll of the eyes. It was kind of nice to at least have that as a scapegoat, and now it's like this Animus couldn't do this stuff, and so we've just kind of, well, it was kind of frustrating as a fan to get that response sometimes. I think it was better than no response at all, or a response of, don't think about it.
Yeah, and I think it was mostly, I think when they went to, like, the Animus thing, it was mostly like, you know, oops, we made an inconsistency. It's not a huge inconsistency, but, you know, some fans are annoyed, and we have this convenient, we have this convenient narrative device, so that works out.
I think the best part was when you could have the conversations with Lucy and Abstergo, and Desmond's like, why the hell are all these guys speaking English? She's like, it's the Animus. So I think the questions that Desmond would ask in AC1 were neat because McCracken, like you said, it was kind of like what the players feel. And it felt okay because it's kind of like an in-universe thing to me, so I always kind of accepted it. Like, it's the Animus. That makes enough sense.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's actually something that, because I think they did stop kind of focusing on it being partially sci-fi, oddly, as they got more sci-fi. You know, like, towards AC3, they got more into the, like, this is how it, especially once you started putting in the optional objectives, it's like, this is how it actually happened. It's like, well, that doesn't quite work. But, like
how did Edward talk to Black Bart Roberts even though he was hanging from the mast?
I mean, it would make a lot more sense, you know, in universe to be like, well, this is a trick of the Animus. Like, one of the reasons, for instance, in AC1, like, I think in the manual, it's like, there's a lot more hay bales around because, you know, we programmed that in to make it easier for players. And I think, you know, players latched onto the history stuff, so Ubisoft focused more on the history stuff. And so now it's in all of our heads to think about, like, well, this isn't right, this isn't historically correct, whereas it could otherwise be easily explained by, like, oh, it's Animus stuff, but we kind of forget about that because we focus on the history.
My headcanon about the rope launcher is actually that its abilities are very exaggerated by the Helix to help the initiate nameless yes man on the couch.
Oh God, I hope it's not that again.
To achieve their synchronization.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And overall I think AC is definitely moving away from that. I think that especially with the developers working on Tyranny King Washington, where they were actually allowed to say this happens because Native American tea. Now they're continuing on with that, but now they're just saying Animus, maybe not, don't think about it too much.
The tea also made them all speak English for some freaking reason.
Oh, yeah.
That was like the best part of the first half of AC3.
Yeah.
It was the best and worst part, because it was like, you know, you had to read it all in subtitles.
But the voices were so cool. They talked so smoothly.
So cool, but it took forever. Like, maybe if you read at the speed of like a word per second, then you might keep up with their speech. I don't know if it's that their words are actually longer or their speech is slower, but it felt like, just like, even, you know, what I felt like is a normal reading speed is like I would get to the end and then wait 15 to 30 seconds for them to finish talking, and then the next line would start, and it would be the same process over and over again.
Jesus Christ, you read fast.
Fine. Thanks.
I definitely did not have that issue in any way, as far as I remember. I'll be getting.
And I can't read. You've established this. The only reason I'm able to use the internet is a complex series of Police Lovers and Rube Goldberg machine that I had. That I had some of my friends set up for me.
We still want
Eric still needs book recommendations. I can't do it alone. Okay.
The only reason Aries is on Skype right now is because I have a really long stick with like another stick at the end of it that I can press down on his keyboard.
Yeah. And I think that definitely a part of the whole Helix thing was in ACU with the British accents. And before this, AC had always been, you know, more like, a lot of people were like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, but AC had always been like really important with attention to detail and getting the accents right after Altia in the first game. And like now suddenly it was like, oh, we're allowed to make every European accent British because that's what all the movies do. And it's like, but I thought that you guys were better than this, than the generic movies that don't really care about historical accuracy. But apparently you aren't anymore.
People made fun of the British accents. We would have made fun of the French accents, but at least they would have been historically accurate,
Yeah.
Well, I guess.
I'm just glad we don't have French accents in Syndicate, because then we would have realized some intern switched the voice files.
I mean, now that I've heard Napoleon talking with such a smooth British accent, it's a little hard to think of him talking with a French accent, just because his voice is so smooth and badass. That's right, isn't it? I don't know.
They actually mention him having a Corsican accent.
Yeah, which is weird.
He's speaking.
Yeah, in the database.
I guess he just. I don't actually know the features of a Corsican accent, but his accent in game is a little more lilting and
kind of like a little
than others,
I guess.
Yeah, and I wasn't even so much bothered by the accents, I guess, so much as people just being like, "I'm gonna bloody kill you," and it's like, what? That's not something French people say.
I actually really liked one thing that I thought was either it was a coincidence or it was some kind of really specific attention to detail, was that the more rugged and less London the accent sounded meant that it was a less pure French accent, like how we have Balak speaking this Scottish accent, I think it was. There's this really rugged British accent, and that actually meant, at least in my head, that it was
quite Scottish, but
it was, but it's more rugged than the a perfect London accent.
Yeah,
so the equivalent of Quebecois French.
That's where I was going, Aris, you piece of shit. Because he was.
It's not my fault I can read minds. I can't read, but I can read minds. It's a trade-off.
Because
my superpowers have a cost.
Because he was from French Canada and fought in the American French Indian War, and so at least for my headcanon, that's why he has the different accent. Of course, that doesn't explain the, "Oh wait, bloody get back here, you thief!"
Piss poor.
Yeah.
Fucking piss pot. Okay. Now, Connor, you were telling me earlier this week how you had a brilliant idea how to make the trains sexy. Could you tell me how exactly you're going to make the trains the sexiest trains that anyone's ever trained?
Well, I guess. So, most of the ideas are basically adhere to as many train cliches as possible, or at least make them possible to pull off. For instance, one of the things I was thinking of is you're going to be able to fight on top of trains. If there are tunnels in this game, which, maybe there's I don't know where the train route goes in this map. It might just go around and around London endlessly. But if there are tunnels, then what you should be able to do is, if you're fighting on top of a train, duck into the car and let your enemies be smacked off the roof by the roof of the tunnel.
Yeah. That could be really fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'd feel very accomplished if I did that.
Yeah. I mean, one of the other things I was thinking of would be to maybe have a set piece that would be have a train go off the rails, or have a Templar get to the engine and then detach the engine car, break your own cars, let him go off the edge.
No. Isn't that the Runaway Train DLC mission?
Realistic?
Probably.
That one you're trying to stop it, though, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure we're going to see that kind of level of detail.
No, I don't think we will.
From what I've heard, you don't even get hit by the trains. They actually stop for you.
What?
Magically.
How could they not kill us?
It's like the anti-GTA 5.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. They just
Trains don't stop like that.
Yeah, that's what I've heard at least.
It's an Animus hack, Connor, please.
In the end, we'll see for ourselves, but that's what I've heard from people who play demos. Little crazy. So the trains could go one way or the other. They could be some shitty fucking just moving part around the map, or they could work like they did in Red Dead Redemption, and they could go even deeper than that.
I will say I'm already
carriages, which is nice.
Yes, I will say I'm already impressed somewhat by what they have told us we can do, such as detaching carriages. The fact that they have an interior that you can go into is pretty big.
It's great.
I mean, Red Dead Redemption had, the train that kept going around the map. It didn't have an interior.
It did.
You
There were
could.
4 people on the train in one carriage.
You could sit on the train though. Can you do? You can't do that in Watch Dogs, guys.
You can.
Oh god, Watch Dogs trains. Oh man, I need to
Can
play
you
that
tie
game.
people up and put them in front of the train?
Oh
You
god.
get an
Dogs,
achievement
like
for
you
that.
could in Red Dead
A
Redemption.
dastardly
I
achievement.
hope we can.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that came out this week about Syndicate was our main man, the sexy beast of the West himself, Tyrell, made a post. Aries, I know that you were very, very fascinated in this post. Could you tell us all about it?
The graphic design post, right?
Yes, the UI post.
Yeah, so Tyrell is very skilled. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see our sweet, sexy page art there. That is his work.
Actually, that's
he's a
also
graphic designer.
That's also on iTunes because he has an iTunes out as well. He made that.
So if you're watching this on iTunes...
Listening. That's listening.
If you're listening,
I-
glance down at your phone right now and you'll see that beautiful art.
You might have to press a
hey, look at
button to
that.
make it light up. You might also have an
Okay.
iPod, which you need to press a button to light up.
Okay. Aries, tell us about Tyrell and his 60 post. Thank you very much.
So he did a rundown of all of the UI for the Animus/Helix from AC1 to AC Syndicate, and he pointed out how with AC1 you have an Abstergo Animus and certain design cues there, lots of whites and blues and very DNA-like. But with AC Brotherhood through 3, you're using Assassin Animi. So that is the plural of Animus is Animi, fun fact, Latin. So the thing with that is it's very gridded. It's lots of squares and whites, except with the black in Brotherhood. But there's a lot of reds in there, and just analysis of how it's very kind of like spirally and stuff, and just talking about how it works and how it evolves through, and certain differences between Assassin interfaces and Templar interfaces. So with AC4 and with AC Rogue, the kind of pattern on the bottom is made to symbolize waves. It's much more colorful. You have like gold for AC4, which is supposed to be like sand, and blue for Rogue, which is supposed to be like ice. And it kind of parallels the setting. And where we went with this was with Unity. It's a Abstergo Helix product that's kind of hijacked by the Assassins. So you have some of the gritty type stuff, gritty, not gritty, gritty. But you also have some of the elements of the Templar animi. And then with Syndicate, his point was that I think it was a Animus from the Assassins, because there's a lot of reds and whites in the design, and it's very square as opposed to the kind of more flowy Abstergo animi. So LWS Rocks and I are of the school that it's a little bit more complicated than that, because in the Jacob and Evie Fry trailers, you see Helix 4.0 restricted. So what we suspect is similar to Unity. It is originally Templar tech that the Assassins have fucked with, hacked with, whatever, to make it their own. That's why you see some Assassin design cues on an overwhelmingly Templar looking Animus from Abstergo.
Yep. Yeah, we know that all the Arno memories and the Helix tech itself was stolen from Abstergo weeks before Unity takes place.
Yes.
Which
you said "oh" in the middle of me talking. Was there something crazy you thought of?
That was the crazy thing, and then you went on to explain my crazy thought.
Oh.
So
I can read your mind, duh.
of course you can. Aries.
Although I would wonder, like, I would be curious as to what restricted means, because I mean, my initial thought was, it's a hacked thing with the Assassins, but then at the same time, it's like we just had that in Unity, didn't have anything like that. And restricted generally means, like locked down or restricted access. Or
maybe it's an early prototype for the Abstergo guys. Could be that too.
Yeah, I guess the thing that keeps popping into my head when I think of it restricted is like when you would hop onto like AC4 multiplayer and the servers would be down and you'd be in restricted access there. So like, I don't know. Very briefly, it put me in mind of like the safe room in Revelations. I don't think that's what it is, but I think that would actually be pretty interesting.
Katie, what do you think?
I don't know.
It was a really good post. I liked how much attention to detail the UI has, and that Tyrell was able to go into and get into the nitty gritty and gritty with T's, not D's. But it was a really good post. I enjoyed reading it. And but Helix 4.0, is that a jump from Unity?
Yes.
In Unity, I think it was 2.0.
Was it?
I don't know.
I think so, because I want to say Rogue was like 1.0.
But Rogue takes place at the same time as Unity.
I think it takes place. The beginning of Rogue takes place. I want to say a little bit before Unity because they reference Sean hacking into their stuff.
Yeah, but
in Unity,
he hacks their stuff weeks before Unity, though.
The best part of the virus in AC4 is that it takes a
Rogue
full year to go bust.
Starts in
The best kind of hacking.
Yeah, because I thought they were referencing at least him stealing Arno's memories, which is then explained in the Abstergo employee handbook how he got Arno's memories. And so then in Rogue, they were referring to a few weeks before when Sean stole the memories. And so
They have to be Lucky Charms.
Yes, and then they're going off at the same time. At least because they were supposed to be originally released on the same day. Mechanically, that's
you might still be working on a 1.0 in Rogue just because everything's shut down. You go to your backup hardware, and 2.0 is what you released on the market, so it might make sense to have 1.0 still in house somewhere.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that
I don't know, I'm defending myself
Assassin's Creed has always had very sexy UI.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and very confusing numerical stuff and terminology and shit.
And now for something completely different. This week's discussion thread is, when did you become a fan of the series? And the first line of the post is literally, and now for something completely different. So, to quote the post, which is very short, we all started in the same place, playing the games. But each of us actually became fans of the series at different times. When did you first fall in love with the series? Was it the end of AC2, like it was for many people, or even AC1, or some of the other games? We can go a little round robin, everyone tells their own personal story. We can have an elaborate flashback montage.
I'm not going to make that. Just so you know, on YouTube, if you're listening, don't look at the screen now because it's not happening.
It's Tool's art, though.
Or is it?
It is.
If you don't look, will you know?
Oh, don't trick them like that, McCracken way. It is still Tool's art, so go appreciate his beautiful art. I guess I'll go first, actually.
That can be a flashback for somebody.
Oh my god.
Because Revelations.
And I explained this on the post itself, but I believe it was like AC2 was when I first fell in love with the series. AC1 was a ton of fun, but it wasn't something that stood out as a masterpiece or something great. It didn't seem like that. It seemed like a fun game at the time, at least. And then AC2 came along, and I melted in my own orgasm of epicness.
Oh god. Viewers, don't look at the screen.
Do look at the screen, because there's nothing happening. And so
well, you know if you don't. Find out. Look at the screen.
I just remember, the main thing I remember is that Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was the first ever game I actually followed up to release. Instead of just randomly checking out a trailer one day or randomly seeing an ad, I as soon as I heard about it, I followed all the trailers and I watched I think the E3 gameplay demo I watched 3 times a day. Most days figuring out how I was going to mess around with the recruits and all that fun, and oh god, I fucking loved Brotherhood so fucking much. Fuck yes, Brotherhood! Rocking away. When did you become a fan of the series? Tell us, let us know.
Well, I think I mentioned on episode 10 that I first played Assassin's Creed 2 at my cousin's house, and then promptly went away and didn't purchase a PS3 until a year later. But when I did purchase the PS3, the first game I got for it was a used copy of Assassin's Creed 2. And I played through that, absolutely loved it. I was so into just the history and the parkour that I immediately went back. Not immediately, but I went back and played AC1 just for more parkour and history. And the fact that I mostly pretty well enjoyed AC1, I think at that point I was very much this is a really dang cool series, and Brotherhood's coming out, because it was I think I finally got around to getting the PS3 just a couple months before Brotherhood came out. So like by the time I was in on the series, or I was like really liking the series, there was already another game like right around the corner. I was like, yes, please bring it to me. And then it came out, and at the time I thought it was even better than AC2, and I was just like, this series is never going to get old. Game Informer was giving it, 9s and 9.5s and 9.75s, and I was like, this is the best series ever, and it still ranks pretty highly. That's the story.
Aries, give it to me.
So I was trying to go back through and kind of chronicle this in my head. I know I was a fan at some point in AC1 because during the lead up to AC2, I was nuts about this freaking game. I would go and just Google search AC2 news videos to find anything I can find. I remember the dev diaries, the 6-part things were so cool, and I was like, oh, this game's gonna be fucking dope. So it must have happened at some point in AC1, and I couldn't point to a single thing. I want to be poetic and say maybe it was like the first leap of faith I did as Altair, but I really have no freaking idea. It was just some part of AC1 made me be like, this game is something really, really unique and really special. Because after that, even before I knew AC2 would exist, I was like, I have to have more of this. This is so freaking good. So maybe it was one of the assassination missions, just a conversation with Al-Mualim maybe. But it was at some point in AC1 where I was like, damn, yeah, this.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it would be... Like, a lot of people originally fell in love with the philosophy or the music or the gameplay or something like that. But for me, at the time, I really wasn't that much of an analytical kind of player of games. So I didn't really look into that kind of stuff or focus on a specific part of the game. I just kind of, like, had fun with it, I didn't, like, appreciate the story, didn't appreciate the music specifically or anything. It was just...
Actually, no, I figured it out. It was when Jade Raymond said, all of the people who you kill in this game actually died in the year 1191. I was like, what? That's when I became a fan.
Oh, yeah, yes, actually...
So it was even before the game came out. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was following AC1 even before release.
All of that stuff as well, the historical accuracy they went for was a big turn on for me, and like it was very impressive to my parents. Like, I'd then tell them all about who died when, and they'd just be like, oh, maybe we should let him play more of these games. Katie, how'd you become a fan of the series?
Do you mean like general fan, or like the kind of fan I am now, like follows everything?
Whatever you want to tell us.
When I was playing Revelations for the first time, when you meet Yusuf, he was really funny.
Oh.
And I don't know, just let's plug in Darby praise.
Yes.
And just the writing was very
Always.
good.
You're saying that Darby actually made you into the fan you are today. Got it?
Yeah.
Praise him! Praise the Darby!
And then
Have you been playing Dark Souls?
the year that Black Flag came out, I wasn't really following it, but I went to Europe and I was like, oh, Italy, it's like I climbed that in a game.
That's the best feeling. I climbed that.
Yeah. And then when we went to Paris, like, I was like, they should really make a game here. I learned more about the French Revolution, and just going to the Notre Dame and seeing everything, I was like, it's a really missed opportunity, because I just assumed, like, they were maybe gonna do a French Revolution game after Brotherhood, since there was an Easter egg then, but nothing came of it, so I'm like, oh, maybe they're not doing it, but I'd love it. And then when it was leaked that it was happening, I was like, oh, it's the game for me. I'm going to follow it. And then that's when I got hardcore into following all the trailers, all the announcements, and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick, fun, kind of random, kind of stupid thing. When I was in high school, all those 1 year ago, it was before my junior year, and I had the option of taking either U.S. history or economics from the history department, and I'd take one or the other, just depending on which year. And I so did not care which year I took what that it was just completely irrelevant to me. So I based my decision on me playing AC3 before taking the class, so I'd already have a primer on the history. So I took economics first, played AC3 that year. The next year I was like, American Revolution, let's fucking do this, I know this shit. And because I played AC3, I was like, yeah, I got this. Boom, what do you want? So yeah.
I had a sort of reverse experience where a lot of the places that you go in AC2, I had been to probably like, I think probably the year before AC2 came out, but probably 2 years before I actually got around to playing it. When I was actually in a state of mind that I wouldn't appreciate going to places like Venice and Rome. But it was actually pretty cool for me booting up and being like, oh, I've actually been there. I'm now climbing that thing that I've seen before. And then going back, I eventually went. I've been back to Venice twice now, I think. And
Oh, wow.
the first time, I've had a lot of whatever. But the first time, we always landed at the Basilica di San Marco, and this group that I was with wanted to go to the Ponte Rialto. I was like, I know which direction that is from here.
Isn't that a great feeling? I love that feeling.
It's fantastic. And also, like, when you go to Italian cities after playing AC2, you look at those things and like, I thought those were just made-up handholds, but those weird
They're all real.
bits of rebar in the sides of the buildings are totally there.
It looks like they just stapled the side of the building together.
Yeah, and that's really what it is.
But two things about that. Going to Venice is, one, it felt really weird not being able to climb everything. It was like, I know I have to go that way, but I can't go to the roof. I made one of these videos, the Aries Incredibly Awesome Italian Adventure, where I talk about just that feeling. But the second thing was, when I was in Venice, I was like, hey, okay, I want to go see the Frari Church because that's a really cool church. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, it's in the first district you are because you can't climb it. You need to learn the climb leap skill, so it has to be near the Grand Canal. So I kind of puzzled my way through and actually ended up just kind of stumbling onto it by random chance. Felt so good. I succeeded.
Like, you know, we always have the, whenever you see one of the cities in movies or anything like that, it's like, you get that feeling, I've been there, I've climbed that, and things like that. But one thing for me was often like, I killed him. Like, because all the characters are historical, and after AC2 and Brotherhood, there was a sudden surge in the popularity of the Borgia family as a protagonist for TV shows. Like, the Borgias would come on.
There were two different shows.
One's I think is still running on Netflix.
Both are on Netflix, and one's far superior. And like one time that came on, and it was like showcasing Rodrigo Borgia as the Pope, and I was just like, "Oh hey, Mum, I killed him," and she was like, "You killed the Pope? Why'd you kill the Pope?" I was like,
he wasn't a very good one. Well, actually, he built a lot of cool stuff, but he wasn't a very good person.
He was a bit of a dick.
Technically, you didn't kill him, but
yeah, I know. But at the time, after AC2,
you dope slapped the shit out of him.
It definitely felt like that.
I beat the shit out of him. I humiliated him.
Where's your god now? Smack, smack, smack.
Yeah, and there was this one time I was at my grandmother's house, and there was this painting on the wall, and so I was like 10 or 11 at the time, and some kid from Christchurch, New Zealand, and I was just like, is that a painting of Florence? And they were just like, no, it's not. And then they was like, wait a second, yeah, how did you know that? Like, where did you learn the word Florence from? Like, because no one I'd ever talked to would know. Like, the only Italian city they could name was Rome, maybe Venice. You know, like at the time, because I was like 9, 10, or 11. You know, no one knew about Florence as the heart of the Renaissance. And so, like, everyone was just like, wait, how did you? And I was just like, I've been there, climbed that, thanks.
Yeah. I think I had a class where we briefly mentioned Machiavelli, and I was like, oh, yeah, I know about his book. And it was very anticlimactic, because it was like, yeah, I didn't kill him. He's cool.
Actually, I have a story about Machiavelli that's much more climactic. Okay. So in my sophomore year, we had a European history class that started with the Renaissance. And we had a policy where everyone led the discussion on a given day. So I was like, oh, Machiavelli, he was in, because this was the year that Brotherhood came out. He was in AC2 last year. I'll lead the discussion on this. So I was reading this excerpt of The Prince, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so freaking cool. And before that point, like, I never spoke in class, like, never at all. And then I led the discussion on Machiavelli. My professor's like, wow, you really freaking love this guy. And I'm like, yeah. So then the rest of the year, it became a joke how much I would talk about Machiavelli. People actually called me Maki, like with the fish, but also Machiavelli. That was an actual thing. I can corroborate that with sources. But so I started like linking everything to Machiavelli, and then because of that, I actually started talking in class, and then talking about other stuff that didn't have to do with Machiavelli. So like the only reason I actually speak is because one day it was like, oh, let's talk about Machiavelli, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. So I story of how Machiavelli told me how to talk in class.
That's how AC changed your life.
Yes, fact.
Hello everyone, this is LWS Rocks, aka Lawson, the Marathon Director, joining the podcast once again for your weekly marathon update. At the time of recording, we are on the 11th day of the marathon in the 5th sequence of Assassin's Creed 2, but by the time you listen, we'll be halfway through the game. Things are going very smoothly on the operational side of things, and one aspect of the marathon I'm particularly proud of is the live streaming. We have a dedicated roster of streamers, all streaming in different time slots, and all being hosted on the AC Marathon Twitch channel, as well as their own. It is such a massive improvement compared to last year, which we had like 2 streamers, both of them disappeared after AC2, so I'd really like to encourage everyone listening right now to really show these guys some love. They're doing this every day for your benefit. If you want to keep up but you don't want to play, or you just need some convenient background noise, go to the sticky threads and give them a look. They deserve all the attention they can get. Now, what I want to do this week, something I haven't done in the past but intend to do more of in the future, is feature a couple of comments and parts of discussion that stood out to me as being particularly interesting. And the first one comes from today's podcast guest. That's TheCliffhangers, who says that the assassination attempt on the Medicis actually took place inside the Duomo rather than outside. This is just one of those little differences between the games and the real-life history they're based on, which I always find very interesting. That makes me wonder how the gameplay would have changed had that sequence been more historically accurate, or why they opted to keep it outside rather than inside. Now, as we all know, while the AC games do try their best to be as accurate as possible with the deaths of the assassination targets, there have always been these little differences, and those have always interested me quite a bit. Reddit user Milike points out that the voice actor for Francesco de Pazzi, Andreas Purgis, I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong, also voiced Cesare Borgia in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. This little tidbit of info led me down a strange little walk through the AC wiki, finding all sorts of shared actors from various games. That same guy also voiced Israel Putnam in Assassin's Creed 3, and more interestingly to me, one of my favorite characters is Juhani Atso Berg in Assassin's Creed Rogue. AC2,
really?
Yeah,
wow.
Same guy. He's
amazed.
He's Pazzi, Cesare Borgia, and
which Pazzi, Vieri or
Putnam.
Jacopo? Or Francesco?
Francesco.
Oh, okay, Francesco.
And now that that's been pointed out to me, like thinking on their voices and hearing them in my head, I totally hear the similarities, 100%.
I see you guys didn't actually look at the Otto Berg weekly discussion thread when it was there, because that was mentioned.
I knew it previously, so yeah.
It's very interesting, actually, like how a lot of the voice actors have transferred over to several different roles, usually actually minor roles. Then this guy, Andres, who has done several quite large roles, Dan Janot has done various random merchants in AC4 before. So it's interesting to see when someone does some of the larger ones.
Yeah, and one of the more obviously apparent ones when you're actually listening to the dialogue, and I'm sure this has been covered a billion times, so I'm probably not saying anything new or interesting, but Carlos Ferro, a fan-favorite historical character Leonardo da Vinci, you probably heard him a week or so ago as the particularly sarcastic bureau leader in Damascus. Yes, and I remember when I was
Oh, wow.
No one reads my weekly discussion threads!
What weekly discussion threads?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
Move on. They lost their sticky status. And then the one that I actually first wondered while playing the game and then looked up and found that it was true is that Liam O'Brien in Rogue is the same actor as Francois Thomas Germain. Francois Thomas
That one
Germain.
I could hear a lot, actually.
Yeah. I played Rogue and Unity really close to each other for writing the threads for the marathon, and I was like, wait a minute. Is that? Yeah, it is. I thought that
Also, another fun one is Aveline and Christina are the same voice actress. Learned that from the Assassin Den podcast.
I swear that's one of those that I've heard like twice but forget, and then I have a moment of surprise when I hear it, and then I go, wait a second, I knew that. But yeah. And that's one that's more apparent once you know about it than before. But that's all I have to share with you this week. We hope you're enjoying participating in the marathon as much as we're enjoying running it. I will probably be joining the Animus Island team again next week. We'll probably be having a more in-depth discussion on Assassin's Creed 2 to coincide with the end of the game. So thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a very great having you here, Lawson. We love having you on every week to talk about. We hope that you'll be able to come on every single week up until Syndicate's release. And it'll be good to talk about AC2 next week, since that is a very, very important game in the general history of the franchise.
Totally.
And, personal plug, my review will be out by then as well, so we can talk about that too!
Oh, awesome.
Yay.
Thank you very much for joining us. Once again, Lawson, coming on. It's a pleasure to have you. You're great to talk with. See you next week.
See you next week, guys.
This has been episode 23 of the Animus Island podcast. I thank you very much for listening through. I'm Archmar, that's McCracken, that's Aries, and our guest this week was Katie, aka TheCliffhangers. Thanks so much for joining us, Katie.
Thanks for having me on. It was really fun.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. Could you tell everyone where they can find you?
You can find me usually posting stuff about my dog on Twitter.
He's okay.
It's the
Go follow her
Cliffhangers.
Twitter.
And occasionally I'm on the AC subreddit with the same name. And if there's a Twitch stream, I'm CrossedEagle 753. And on Uplay and the AC Council site, which is so great, CrossedEagle.
And then also on the forums, right?
Yeah.
All right. Great to hear it. Next week we might be joined by AC Universe, but I'm not too sure about that. We'll see how that goes. He's very, very busy. If you would like to be a guest or would like to ask us a question to answer at any point on the show, then you can contact us basically anywhere except Facebook, because not that, and except Tumblr. Just maybe go to the subreddit. Or there might be places in the description as well. There's timestamps in the description if you want to see those. Anything else? Do I need to mention? Did I figure anything, guys? I'll take
Follow
those.
Katie's Twitter.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
Follow all of our Twitters. They're all brilliant. This has been the Animus Island podcast. I will see you next week.